Hey, what's up, guys? It's Reed Young, aka Shooter here. I'm going to review a hand where we have pocket aces and a bunch of raises going pre-flop, and I think this is going to be a useful spot for a lot of you guys. Um, right off the bat, I just wanted to say thank you guys for sharing all the videos and hitting that like button. It's really helping the channel to grow. At the time I'm making this, we're up to just about 330 subscribers, so we're growing pretty regularly, pretty nicely. And if you guys are enjoying these videos, if you could take a second to click that like button or put it up on your Facebook, I would definitely appreciate it. And that way we can get more people in the comments section and helping everyone get a little bit better at poker. So if you guys can hear that scratching sound, it is my dog and not me. So just to let you know. All right, so we are on the cutoff with aces, and we're pretty deep with a lot of people at the table since we're playing 100 no limit. There's an ante, and so that's going to drive the action a little bit. Expecting lighter raises and re-raises pre-flop because you're going to be able to steal a larger pot if you just take it down uncontested. So that said, we should go into this with a bit more aggressive of a dynamic in mind than at the average 6 max table. You guys can see there's actually 7 players here, but for all intents and purposes, we can just treat the opener as the under the gun 1 player, and like we're at a 6 max table, and you can argue small effects about card removal and things like that, but no big deal. The hand's not going to be played any differently realistically. So the under the gun player, or middle position as it's here marked, raises to 250, which is a standard but probably small raise size here. Then we pop it up to 10, which I think is good. We're in position, everything's looking nice, and the big blind makes it 35. So now we have a few options after the original pre-flop raiser folds. First off, we could re-raise, and I think most of the time at 100 no limit, you're just going to get it in pre-flop. I also think his sizing is a bit large and usually indicative of some sort of hand like Ace King that is just trying to get a bunch of money in when he's ahead and a little bit worried about flopping well out of position. So if he can take it down and he doesn't have to just cold call pre-flop and play a re-raise pot out of position against us, especially with like an unpaired hand, and probably pretty uncomfortable trying to get to showdown out of position with just ace high. I can't blame him for cold 4-betting, and it's certainly something you would want to do as a bluff every once in a while. So this deep, I can't fault him for the large size either, really, but I just think it's a little bit more indicative of a stronger hand, especially at 100 no limit. So that said, I think I would be 4-betting most of the time pre-flop here, and flatting rarely, because I think if our opponent does miss, he's going to be hesitant to fire multiple streets. But the cool thing about flatting is we're in position and we can definitely represent a wider range. We're so deep that we have pretty good implied odds against the range our opponent's representing, and I think it's pretty deceptive if we do call because of that. So we call. The pot's already pretty big at 75 big blinds here, and the big blind actually continuation bets a little bit over half pot on this king high board. We call, which I think is the correct play almost always. When the pot to stack ratio is this deep, you can make an argument for raising, but if you're going to continue, you're really in kind of a shove or fold spot, I think, or not a shove or fold, but if you're raising, what I'm trying to say is you're probably shoving. So there's not much to be gained from a smaller raise size, except for you can raise with your pure air, which I'm not convinced is necessarily part of like an optimal or like the best game plan. Because if we do flop a hand like Jack 10, we don't necessarily want to just min raise it. Maybe some of the time we'll float with a flush draw. I would say most of the time we would want to shove, and try to fold out hands like Queen High he might have, or if he has something like ace four of spades, hopefully we can fold that out by shoving. And then you do want to balance that with stronger hands, so it's important to talk about. Speaking of balancing with stronger hands, we did decide to call, which I think is fine to do with a mixture of made hands, floats, and slow played monsters like this, even though that kind of falls into the category of a made hand, I suppose. On the turn, it's the seven of clubs, and we get check two, and we're now deciding whether or not we should be betting. I guess the poster is worried about over-representing his hand a little bit now that the flush comes in. But really what you have to think about here is it's already 4-bet pre-flop. So if you think about how many hands in your range that are going to be re-raising pre-flop and calling this 4-bet, how many of those hands are clubs compared to the floats that you can have on this flop? And I would say it's probably much fewer if you're going to be floating all of your hands. Of course, you don't have to float everything, but an opponent who thinks you're floating extremely wide here is going to be able to check call with a pretty wide range. And I think betting is by far and away the best play because you can get a lot of value from hands like King X with a club, or even pocket jacks if he's 4-betting at pre-flop, given the stack sizes, with a club that is just trying to induce a bluff from some sort of float. Maybe we could even just have pure air to be floating here. So I think on the turn, if he did have a flush draw himself, he'd be betting, unless it's with a pair. And a king high board is pretty great for him to barrel. So I would expect most just naked flush draws to be barreling as well. And just kind of going with their hands, expecting to have around 30% equity when called. So I think we should be betting here, and it's mostly important to protect our bluffs in our range. And if you want to mix up your play, a good example of this could be checking back a hand like aces with the ace of clubs, or a pair of kings with a king of clubs that isn't particularly a strong king. And in this instance, that means pretty much any king besides ace king, which could be dominated by his check calling range. So here I think we have a very easy value bet to protect our bluffs and protect our actual hand in this situation, because if we are called, he's still going to have a lot of equity, and we definitely need to get the money in while we have the best of it, and just to make sure that we can represent value hands for the times that we want to bluff shove with a hand like queen jack offsuit with the queen of clubs or something like that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, if you don't mind sharing it, it takes just a second and it definitely helps the channel grow. You guys can tell if you've been watching the last couple of videos that the comment sections have just been going off. So thank you guys for participating, and let me know what you guys think about this hand and if you like this format. Alright, take care guys.